Help support the show by joining the Patreon or becoming a YouTube member. Also, hit that like button and subscribe if you want more Browns-focused content.
I feel like there has been no shortage of content out there about the Cleveland Browns, willing to tell you about stuff the Browns have done this offseason that people don't like or people disagree with, or maybe, your favorite Browns person, whoever you go to, would not have liked. But that's not what I'm trying to do today. What I want to do is highlight some of the good things I think the Browns have demonstrated in the offseason. Now, it's important to remember, just because there is an existence of good things that I'm willing to praise and willing to be excited about, does not really mean that means that I think that the offseason overall was amazing or something like that, or I think the team's going to win 11 games or something crazy like that. That's not where I'm at with this team. I think the offseason has been pretty solid for this football team, given where they're at and the tough situation that they're in. But, I'm not raving home thinking this team's going to compete for a playoff spot. I'm pretty set in my expectations being under 500 for this football team, and I'm fine with that. But that being said, right, there are still stuff that you want to see in the offseason. There's still things you want to see the Browns do in the offseason. So let's talk about some of the things that I like that the Cleveland Browns have done. The first thing that stands out to me that I have to appreciate, because this is something that I always clamor for, is the Cleveland Browns' very real commitment to smash mouth football. Think of it like this. The Browns spent money on Jerome Baker, a linebacker. The Browns spent a first-round pick on a defensive tackle, a second-round pick on a running back and a linebacker, another fourth-round pick on a running back, and a third-round pick on a tight end. This is a commitment to smash mouth football on both sides of the ball. And if your football team is not going to be amazing, and this is the one thing I think Pittsburgh really does understand, not just the one thing, but one of the many things I think a team like Pittsburgh understands. If you're not going to be great as a football team, the best way to get the most out of whatever you have on your roster is to be a very physical football team. Because if you are more physical than the teams that you play against every Sunday, odds are that 50% of the time you're going to be able to win, right? That is the bet that the Cleveland Browns are making. They want to be more physical. They spent money on 2 offensive tackles, right? Tevin Jenkins, who is one of the most physical offensive linemen in football, right? They brought in Cornelius Lucas, another physical offensive lineman. Every single thing that the Cleveland Browns have done outside the quarterback position in this offseason has been about a commitment to smash mouth football on both sides. And I think they've made some really strong moves. If we go on the defensive side of the ball, I really like what they've done to this front seven. You bring in Jerome Baker, you still have Jordan Hicks, you have Devin Bush in rotation, you draft Carson Schlesinger, and even without JOK for the year, which he's already on PUP IR, you have a really solid linebacker rotation that you feel like can not only hold up when they're healthy, but also be formidable still, even if they withstand a couple of injuries throughout the course of the year. You have versatility with Jerome Baker, Jordan Hicks, and Carson Schlesinger as well. Like, these are all 3 running backs who can run, hit, and cover. Carson Schlesinger has the ability to be a next level playmaker eventually in his NFL career. A lot of good things that they've done at the linebacker position, and obviously still having Jason Tarver, one of the best position coaches in all of football, is a huge boon to that linebacker room. And just look what Jason Tarver has done with nothing at the position. I know every time I say this, it ends up being controversial, but I think Jason Tarver has been the best position coach the Cleveland Browns have had in this decade, period. I know a lot of that goes to Bill Callahan because Bill Callahan's reputation is so broad and people talked about Bill Callahan's reputation, but Bill Callahan did a good job of getting a lot out of some really expensive players, some players who had the pedigree to be great, and he got a lot out of those guys. But when it became more on a budget on the offensive line for Bill Callahan, you started to see him struggle a little bit. Jason Tarver has had zero budget at that linebacker room his entire time here. He's been thrown BJ Goodson. He's been thrown Anthony Walker, like random players that the Browns are trading for in the middle of the season. Reggie Ragland at one point, and he's gotten solid play out of almost every scrap he's been thrown in the linebacking room. Now, to me, that's a lot more impressive than having a good offensive line with three all pros on it, right? And a top 10 pick, and an expensive center. And that's not to discount what, I don't want to make this a Jason Tarver versus whoever coach thing, but I'm just saying, look at what Jason has done with very little resources in that linebacker room over the last 5 years. The Browns have spent very little money at linebacker, and they've gotten a lot out of it. They've gotten hits from undrafted free agents, hits from almost every single linebacker they've had since 2020. They've been able to get something out of them, right? Even like somebody like Mack Wilson, they ended up getting a player for him. And I think the development has been pretty strong there from Jason Tarver of young players as well, if you look at the progress that JLK made over his time in Cleveland. So that makes me just trust him with a project like Carson Schlesinger. And it makes me really excited about what this linebacker group can be this year, given that this is the first time we've really given Jason Tarver some a real budget to work with in that linebacking room. And I think it's going to give pretty good returns, or at least I feel good about it giving pretty good returns. You go to the defensive line, look, a lot of people can complain about the Browns taking a defensive tackle number 5 overall. I am not one of those people. I have sat here and pounded the table and cried and yelled and bitched about the Browns' inability or lack of care of investing in the defensive tackle position, which I do believe to be one of the most important positions in all of football. It's an unsung spot. People are going to default to looking at stats and all that kind of garbage, but really a great defensive tackle can ruin an offense as much as an edge rusher can, even if they're not getting a ton of sacks, right? Everybody looks at Aaron Donald as the only way to be a disruptor. Well, there's plenty of defensive tackles that have found a way to disrupt and change games without getting a ton of sacks. And I think that's the brand of player that Mason Graham can be for the team. I don't think he's ever going to be a 10-12 sack guy, right? People are going to, you draft a defensive tackle number 5 overall, people start to expect the sack numbers of a JJ Watt or of a Aaron Donald. I don't think that's going to be Mason Graham's bag, but what he's going to be is really effective for those who are willing to watch the house of cards that is a run game being stopped in the NFL, right? He's going to stop a guard from getting to a gap, which is going to allow a linebacker to fit right into the gap and then force the running back to cut outside, which lets a defensive back get a tackle. That is the kind of stuff that you don't understand that you're missing when you don't have a top-tier defensive interior room. And the Browns have been missing that for a while. So the fact that the last 2 drafts, they spent their first selection, a second-round selection on Mike Hall, and then a first-round pick, a top 5 pick on Mason Graham, I cannot sit here and complain about that in good faith. This is something I've wanted the Cleveland Browns to do for a very long time. I felt like they've had these duct tape solutions when it comes to the defensive line, what goes next to Miles, and it hasn't really worked out the way that we've wanted it to work out. You got a Jim Schwartz defense, and let's face it, every great Jim Schwartz defense has had great 3 techs, right? Sometimes great edge rushers, but always great 3 techs. Right, you go look at Philadelphia the year they won the championship with Jim Schwartz. You're gonna see a couple of great 3 techs, right? You look at the Dallas Cowboys, the Detroit Lions when Jim Schwartz had those strong defenses out there. You're gonna see a couple of great 3 techs and Nick Fairley and Ndamukong Suh, right? this is what the Jim Schwartz defense needs to thrive, which is bodies on the defensive line that you can shuffle in and out, right? They talk about it being like hockey shifts, and dudes who can disrupt. And what we've seen of Mike Hall last year is somebody who has the potential to disrupt. What we've seen from Mason Graham's tape is somebody who is a pretty good bet to be a disruptor in the NFL. And then we obviously know what Myles Garrett brings to the table. And even somebody like Isaiah McGuire, who's going to get an extended look this year, has had some impressive tape over last year. So I like that not only do we have a real investment at linebacker, a real investment on the defensive line, but like, it's not short term. These are long term investments, right? Mason Graham, you hope he's on the team for the next 10 years, right? Mike Hall is another guy you hope is on your team for the next 10 years. Carson Schlesinger is a guy you hope is on your team for the next 10 years. Like, these are holes that you hope to plug long term that are at some critical parts to play smash mouth defense on one side of the ball, and does not get out physical by teams. So I love that they invested in it. It's going to be a long term thing, right? Especially in the trenches. Those aren't picks that pan out super early, right? Those aren't going to be the picks that show themselves early. But if they're right about this and they develop these players, they might have plugged these gaps for the next 10 years. And I appreciate that. I have nothing but appreciation for that kind of a commitment on the defensive side of the ball. You look at the offensive side of the ball, the only thing I can really complain about is I wish there was more of an investment in the offensive line, albeit I wish that investment came in 2024's draft, not 2025's draft. I understood why they passed on tackle in this year's draft. Last year, I thought there were a lot of great tackle options, even late into that draft, that they should have at least kicked the tires on. So, that aside, right, I still like the moves they made in the offseason with Cornelius Lucas and Tevin Jenkins. I think those are two important pieces that you add. Where Tevin plays is a bit of a question mark, but still like that they brought those guys in. I think they're going to be a boost to this offensive tackle room. We'll see what DeJuan Jones looks like. We'll see what Jack Conklin, how healthy he's able to stay. But I like those moves up front. And then you add another tight end. This tight end room had been thin, right? This is a Cleveland Browns offense that likes to run a lot of twin tight end looks. A lot of times we like to run tight ends in, off the ball, coming off the line in the slot, right? We do this a lot with Jordan Akins. We did this a lot with Harrison Bryant. Now it's going to be Harold Fannin Jr. And again, it's not just like a stopgap. We're going to give a guy a chance here for 1 or 2 years. This is a legit, like, hey, we're going to try to fix this position long term. So Harold Fannin Jr., maybe he steps up, becomes a replacement for David Njoku over time. In the meantime, you still have David Njoku, who's still very good at that tight end spot. And then running back, right? And look, I do not love that they're not going to bring back Nick Chubb, or at least unless there's like an injury, they're not going to bring him back. It seems like they put him in Kareem Hunt mode. I don't love that. I would prefer to have Nick Chubb. I've made my preference on that known. But as far as rebuilding the run game goes, I like what they've done here. Cleveland Browns, I've said this before. I'll say it again until it's drilled into everybody's head. The Browns last year and the year before that, I think every year since 2021, their numbers in the run game were pretty good. But 22, 23, 24, they've been at the top of the league when it comes to negative yard runs. The wide zone stuff across the league has been caught up on, right? The wide zone runs, the Browns exploited with Nick Chubb early in his career, and that Kevin Stefanski helped use to get to his first 11-win season. That stuff has been keyed in on by a lot of NFL defenses, and it's just not as successful league-wide. So the Browns had to pivot. What the Browns pivoted to was to be a more physical run game. And that's why Quincy Jenkins is here. That's why Dylan Sampson is here. The two traits that both these guys have: they're really hard to tackle, they don't go down on first contact, and they run really, really hard, right? I know some people are going to complain that maybe these guys don't have great vision. I tend to think that vision from the running back position, this is a controversial take, can sometimes be a little bit overrated. The reason I think that is there are a lot of ways to supplement vision on the football field, right? You can have different read rules. You can just simplify what a running back is being asked to do. A lot of running backs don't read well because, what you ask like Nick Chubb to do, which is make a bunch of reads and creases and angles. Not every running back can do that. But what a lot of running backs can do really well is go one way really fast, right? And if you're more physical than other teams and you can move guys off the line of scrimmage and you can run into this gap that you told that player to go to, then vision doesn't matter as much as, hey, can you bend into that hole if you need to? And both Quincy and Dylan Sampson can both do that. So I see the vision here with the run game. Is it the sexiest thing in the world? Are these two running backs who I think are going to be able to manufacture shit like Ashawn Genty is going to be able to? No. But yeah, I think they're going to be able to get the ball ahead of the sticks, keep the offense on time, and accumulate first downs, which is something this run game has been pathetic at. And look, I like that Dylan Sampson and Quincy were both drafted, which allows Jerome Ford. I know a lot of people are tired of Jerome Ford at this point, but I will contend and still contend that Jerome Ford is fine when he's your third running back. And if Jerome Ford is utilized like a third running back, a home run hitter, right? Basically, we're going to go wide zone here, try to catch the defense off guard and hit a big hitter right here, or use him as a receiving back, and try to get him back to where he was his first 2 years in the NFL as a pass protector, where he was very solid. Last year, he was awful. But I think that has more to do with a lot of the chaos that was going on with the Cleveland Browns at that time, more than his ability to do it overall. All that being said, I think Jerome Ford, if put in the proper role, won't piss you off. I think Jerome Ford pisses off a lot of Browns fans because he gets tackled behind the line of scrimmage a lot. And the reason he gets tackled behind the line of scrimmage a lot is because he's just not an every down back. Now you have two guys who fit that every down back mold, so that pressure won't be on him. You don't have to run guys like Pierre Strong, right, who has worse contact balance than even Jerome Ford. You're going to try to get ahead of the sticks. These guys give you a better chance to get it ahead of the sticks. I love that commitment. So the commitment to smash mouth football in the front seven, on defense, and on the line, in offense, and then with the running back, I like that. I like that a lot. I cannot complain about that focus. Hopefully the selections they made in that focus work out, but I'm not mad at the overall guiding philosophy that brought those players here. The second thing I like about the Browns offseason, I'll be on the island. I like how they handle quarterbacks so far. I know that you're used to hearing people shit on Cleveland because they have 5 quarterbacks, 4 quarterbacks. Oh, how many quarterbacks are they collecting? We have no quarterbacks, dude. None of them. Not a single one of these guys for a fact are going to be a franchise quarterback for this team. They don't have a quarterback, right? Even if you like Dylan Gabriel, there's no guarantee there Dylan Gabriel's going to be good. Even if you like Shedeur Sanders, there's no guarantee that Shedeur Sanders is going to be good, especially in year one. If you like Joe Flacco, he's 40. There's no guarantees there. If you like Kenny Pickett, there's no guarantees with the Browns quarterback room. And when that's the case, I don't give a fuck about reps, man. People have been bitching and moaning about the Browns. How many reps are they going to play? How many games are there going to be for 4 quarterbacks? It has been this unseen thing for the Browns to play 4 quarterbacks. We played more than 4 quarterbacks the last 2 years. So the idea that we might play 4 quarterbacks again this year, not shocking, right? It was probably going to happen, but instead of it being Tyler Huntley and Graham Mertz or some shit like that. Instead of that being the extra 2 quarterbacks we play, it's going to be Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders. And that's a massive upgrade. From just trying out some random guys. Last year we played Bailey Zapp in DTR. I'd much rather, if we have to go into our young quarterback bag and Kenny Pickett doesn't work out and Joe Flacco doesn't work out, Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders give me much more to hope for in the quarterback room than, what was it last year? DTR, Tyler Huntley, PJ Walker. Who else? Who else was in there? Oh, Bailey Zapp. I don't get why people are acting like this is ridiculous. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't understand it. Is it An amazing situation with the Cleveland Browns? No, an amazing quarterback situation is having a surefire starting quarterback. We are not in that position. We do not have that fortune. But I'd much rather do this than be in a spot where I'm paying Aaron Rodgers $25 million to start at quarterback. I might win more games with Aaron Rodgers, but at the end of the day, by the end of that season, I'm still going to be at the same place that I started at quarterback, which is nowhere. Like, at least here, we got the potential to figure out, hey, maybe Dylan Gabriel can start a couple of games. Maybe Shedeur Sanders can start a couple of games. It's a hell of a better spot to be in, or at least a more entertaining spot to be in than like, okay, Joe Flacco doesn't work out. Kenny Pickett doesn't work out. Both of them are injured, and we're just signing, Tyler Huntley off the practice squad to start a game. Like, that's not fun at all. Nobody wants that. So, yeah, I'd rather have Shedeur and Dylan Gabriel. I do not care that they drafted both of these guys. I do not care that they drafted two quarterbacks. And I really don't care about the freaking order that they drafted Dylan Gabriel or Shedeur Sanders. The truth is that Shedeur Sanders and Dylan Gabriel will be able to compete to be able to justify whatever order it was. If Dylan Gabriel is better than Shedeur Sanders, then Dylan Gabriel will win the competition. If Shedeur Sanders is better than Dylan Gabriel, then Shedeur Sanders will win the competition. I do not care. People are coming up with all these theories about the Browns quarterback evaluations because they took Shedeur after Dylan Gabriel, when the fact is that the whole league would have took Dylan Gabriel over Shedeur for whatever reason, because Shedeur fell to the 5th round. So I'm not here to say why he fell to the 5th round. No clue. Bunch of different reasons, bunch of different theories, but the Browns aren't the only team that passed on Shedeur Sanders, and like people are acting like we're the only team that did it, right? We're just the only team that had the balls to come back and take Shedeur Sanders after everybody passed on him. But people are acting like taking Dylan Gabriel pick 93 is somehow worse than Tyler Shuck at 40 or Jackson Dart in the 1st round. When Jackson Dart, Tyler Shuck at the end of the college football season, all these guys were in the same conversation as Dylan Gabriel. But like, those teams get a pass because the media hyped up those guys to be 1st-round picks. Browns take a guy who's not hyped up to be a 3rd-round pick in the 3rd round. We get shit on. It's hilarious to me. Like, it's hilarious. We'll see how it all works out. But I don't mind how they've handled the QB stuff. Is it likely that none of these quarterbacks turn out to be anything? Probably. Like, that's very likely. We're talking about a 3rd and a 5th round pick here. Not likely you hit on it, but hey, it doesn't matter. You spent a 3rd and a 5th round pick. It's like not that much. So not really tripping about it. I like that, if you're going to use a 3rd round pick, especially a 2nd, 3rd round pick that you had, not your only one, on gambling on a quarterback, then sure, fine, do it. If you don't have a quarterback, you need to not be desperate at the quarterback position next year. You think Dylan Gabriel can get you to that point? Sure. You traded up, got Shedeur Sanders. You think he might be able to help you get to that point? Then sure, take a fucking chance. I don't have a problem with it. These picks aren't guaranteed to work out. The Browns could have took a wide receiver, whatever safety you wanted to take, whatever linebacker you wanted to take, and that linebacker may or may not have helped this team this year. They're not a guarantee to hit. Same as a quarterback, right? So when you're drafting that far back, when we're talking about the back end of top 100, take chances on guys who could really change things if they hit. If you get a wide receiver who's pretty decent with that 3rd round pick, that's not going to change the franchise. But boy, if you hit on a quarterback here, that could change the franchise. So I understand why you would take that risk and why they valued it. I have no problem with how they handle quarterback. Everybody's had these hot takes, been sassy about whatever the Browns do at quarterback. I understand that they don't have a single quarterback in that room right now that they could trust. So take chances. I don't care. Like, I'm not gonna ding you for that. I'm not gonna sit here shit on your quarterback room before the draft. You try to do something about it during the draft and be like, oh, not like that. No, I don't mind it. They took swings at it. Cool. Take swings at it. I don't mind that approach, right? Now, they didn't take swings with it with like the most important picks, which I would have been pissed off at, right? If they just took a swing at a quarterback at 2, okay, now we got a problem. But you use pick 90 and like pick 100 something for Shedeur. Why are people complaining about this? Like, worst case scenario, it's another 3rd round pick that doesn't work out. That happens for every team every year. where they have third round picks that don't work out. Go look at your favorite GM's draft history. You're going to see third round picks you've never fucking heard of. So the idea that like a third round pick bust out and you don't get anything out of it, not crazy, happens every year to multiple teams, even the good franchises, even Philadelphia it happens to. And the idea that a fifth round pick doesn't help you out in the future, that's not unheard of. So if those two don't work out, cool. But the upside is immense, because if you cannot be desperate at the quarterback position, then I think that's a great sign for you going into 2026. So I really don't get why the Browns are being criticized for having a bunch of quarterbacks. What the fuck you want us to do? Like, honest question. What you want us to do? What you want? You want us to just roll out Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, trade and spend a bunch of money on Kirk Cousins, which was the best case scenario until Shador fell. But Shador fell to the fifth round, and that was what you were going to spend on Kirk Cousins. I'd rather spend the fifth round pick on Shador than Kirk Cousins. Like, I don't see the problem. I don't see the problem. But I don't know. I think it's just because it's the Browns, it's quarterback related. People just like, oh yeah, let's shit on it. I don't mind it, even if it doesn't work out. Yeah, I don't mind failing like that. Like, I'm fine with it. Go out swinging, figure out your quarterback situation, take some flyers. Why not take a flyer on Shador? You're the team in the NFL that absolutely had the room to take a flyer on Shador. Why not take a flyer on Dylan Gabriel if you really believe in him? Fuck it. Like, you're the team that has the room to take flyers. Like, more so than anybody. You have no commitment at starting quarterback right now. Take flyers. Like, why not? Why not take a flyer on Kenny Pickett if you believe in him? Like, I don't. I'm not a big believer in Kenny, but hey, if you believe in him, you think there might be a diamond in the rough there, take the fucking flyer. It didn't cost you nothing but a fifth round pick in Dorian Thompson-Robinson. Like, what's the big deal? I would get it if the Browns had like Super Bowl expectations this year, but they don't. They don't even have make the playoff. Like, I would be surprised and thrilled if this team got over 500. So, like, what am I tripping about the quarterback position that much for? That's really where I stand at. All right, the last thing the Browns did this offseason I do appreciate, they held their ground in some very tough spots, right? They traded back from 2, didn't love that, but I do love that they stayed in the top 5, right? Okay, cool. Love that they stood their ground there, didn't just, like, default into trading back for no reason, and it ended up with, like, the 15th pick, and then we're like, oh, we're going to be fucked on this trade back. So like that they did that. I'm sorry for cussing a lot. I'm tired. It's hot. And I'm just in a mood. So I promise I won't cuss as much in the next video. Or at least I'll try not to cuss as much. I know people watch this with the family. So my apologies generally for cursing so much. And just, I'm passionate about what I'm talking about here. But I like that they held their ground. The Myles Garrett situation, I mean, like, you're looking at Cincinnati right now. That is what happens when you don't handle a situation properly. They got Trey Henderson on TV talking about, please send me some money, because the Bengals won't. And I'm glad we not looking like that with Myles. So front office, I thought, handled that situation well. And I appreciate how they held their ground this offseason, not giving an inch on that trade rumor stuff when everybody and their mama wanted you to trade Myles Garrett for pennies on the dollar. So that's what I liked about the Browns offseason. Let me know what you liked about the Browns offseason in the comment section down below. Y'all have a great day. Have an even better night. Peace.